Stop everything, because this is not just another messy celebrity divorce story. This is being whispered about as the most explosive Braxton family scandal ever hinted at, and it's coming from the one person who stayed silent the longest. Vincent Herbert. The man who helped build careers, fund dreams, and stand in the shadows while others took the spotlight, is finally speaking, and what he's allegedly revealing is sending shockwaves through the internet. Overnight, cryptic statements, resurfaced interviews, and leaked whispers have fans spiraling into full-blown meltdown mode. According to what's blowing up right now, Vincent is claiming that his marriage to Tamar didn't just end in heartbreak, it ended in financial devastation. We're talking about accusations of drained accounts, vanished money, and a family dynamic that may have played a much darker role than anyone ever imagined. And the most jaw-dropping part, his hinting that he was left with nothing while the world believed a completely different story. Fans are scrambling through old clips, replaying scenes with new eyes, questioning moments that once seemed harmless. Social media is on fire, timelines are split, and one terrifying question keeps surfacing. If Vincent is telling the truth, how much of the Braxton legacy was built on secrets we were never supposed to know? Because this isn't just about Tamar. This allegedly reaches into family conversations, behind-the-scenes deals, and decisions made while cameras were rolling, and while Vincent says he was being pushed out. If even part of this is real, this isn't tea. It's a reckoning. And what's about to come out next could change how we see the entire Braxton empire forever. The silence didn't break quietly, it shattered. According to multiple insiders, Vincent Herbert didn't wake up one morning and decide to talk. This had been boiling for years. Friends say he'd been sitting on receipts, replaying moments in his head, watching narratives form without him, watching his name slowly erased from a story he helped write with his own money, his own connections, and his own reputation. And now, the floodgates are cracking open. What people forget, or were never told, is that before the cameras, before the glam confessionals, before the Braxton brand became a weekly television ritual, there was Vincent. Not as a background husband. Not as an accessory. But as the engine. Multiple former associates claim Vincent was the one fronting money when no network check had cleared yet. We're talking private funds, not studio money. Risk money. The kind you don't get back if things flop. And according to him, that risk didn't just cost him financially, it cost him everything. Sources close to Vincent say the cracks started once the show hit real success. Once the family checks got bigger. Once opinions started outweighing gratitude. Allegedly, meetings began happening without him. Financial decisions he used to oversee suddenly rerouted. Accounts he once had access to locked. One former business manager claims Vincent noticed money moving in ways that didn't match contracts. Small at first. Easy to ignore. Until it wasn't. Behind closed doors, insiders say Vincent questioned Tamar. Not accusing, asking. Where did this go? Why was that moved? Why was a payment delayed when the show was booming? And according to people who were there, those conversations didn't go well. They say Tamar took it as betrayal. As control. As jealousy. And from that moment on, the marriage allegedly stopped being a partnership and became a power struggle. What makes this darker is the role the family allegedly played. Vincent is said to believe he wasn't just dealing with marital tension, he was dealing with a united front. Group conversations that excluded him. Advice being given to Tamar that painted him as expendable. One insider even claims Vincent overheard a family member say, "We don't need him anymore. The show is the brand now." Whether that exact line was said or not, the message was loud enough for him to feel it. As the seasons rolled on, viewers saw arguments framed as personality clashes. But insiders say what was really happening was financial warfare. Vincent allegedly claims he was paying expenses out of pocket, while simultaneously being iced out of decision-making. Imagine funding the machine, and being told to step aside while it prints money. That's the resentment people close to him say never healed. Then came the lawsuits. Quiet at first. Whispers of debt. Headlines painting Vincent as irresponsible, overextended, reckless. But here's where things get messy. Vincent reportedly says those financial troubles didn't come from wild spending, but from being left holding the bag. Contracts dissolved. Shared assets disputed. Obligations still in his name, while income streams were no longer touching his accounts. And according to him, the public never questioned it because the story had already been written. Tamar, meanwhile, was rising. New opportunities. New platforms. New confidence. And while fans saw empowerment, Vincent allegedly saw erasure. People who once came to him for approval stopped calling. Deals he negotiated were now being reframed as family wins, not joint efforts. And when he tried to speak up, insiders say he was told he was bitter, unstable, or trying to sabotage success. What truly broke him, according to those close to him, wasn't the divorce itself, it was the aftermath. He claims he walked away not just heartbroken, but financially gutted. Not because he lost in court, but because the real losses happened before lawyers were ever involved. Money moved. Credit shifted. Narratives cemented. And once the public picked a side, it was over. Friends say Vincent watched interviews where Tamar spoke about independence and survival, and while those words resonated with fans, they felt like knives to him. Because behind the scenes, he believed he was the one surviving. Sleeping on couches. Borrowing. Rebuilding from zero while the world assumed he had mismanaged millions. And then there are the alleged recordings. Nothing confirmed publicly, but insiders insist Vincent has audio. Conversations. Not illegal wiretaps, but voicemails and messages where financial truths don't match public statements. Where promises were made and later denied. Where family loyalty sounded very different off-camera. He hasn't released them. Yet. Why now? That's the question lighting up social media. Why speak after all this time? People close to Vincent say it's because history is being rewritten in real time. New interviews. New retrospectives. New praise that excludes him completely. And according to him, silence now feels like consent. The internet is already dividing into camps. Some say this is a bitter ex trying to reclaim relevance. Others say this is the missing chapter that finally explains years of tension, breakdowns, and public meltdowns. Old clips are resurfacing. Fans are analyzing body language. Pausing scenes. Rewatching arguments with new context. And the more they look, the more uncomfortable questions start forming. Because if Vincent is even halfway telling the truth, then this wasn't just a messy marriage. It was a calculated shift of power. A slow financial bleed masked by fame and applause. And the scariest part. He's allegedly only talking about the beginning. Because according to someone very close to him, the next thing Vincent plans to address isn't money. It's what really happened behind the cameras when the family wasn't performing, and who made the call that finally pushed him out completely. By the time Vincent finally stopped answering calls, insiders say it wasn't anger anymore, it was survival. People close to him describe a man who felt cornered, silenced, and strategically pushed out of his own life. According to multiple sources who claim to have been present during off-camera negotiations, this wasn't just about a divorce. It was about control. About who got to speak, who got to stay quiet, and who got written out of the story completely. Behind the scenes, Insiders allege the Braxton inner circle began tightening in ways viewers too emotional and not thinking clearly. That moment, according to people close to him, changed everything. What's rarely discussed is how fast the tone shifted. Early seasons painted Vincent as the supportive husband, the behind-the-scenes strategist. But insiders say once the show gained momentum, the narrative needed a villain. Someone to absorb blame when things got uncomfortable. And slowly, subtly, that role began drifting toward him. Disagreements were reframed as aggression. Financial questions were framed as insecurity. And concerns became control issues. According to one person who worked closely with the family, it was a masterclass in image management. Then came the money conversations, or rather, the lack of them. Vincent reportedly claims that requests for transparency were met with defensiveness. He says he asked simple questions that never got straight answers. Why were certain expenses coming out of joint accounts while revenue streams had shifted elsewhere? Why were contracts being amended without his signature? Why did payments arrive later and later while obligations remained immediate? Insiders say those questions were treated as attacks rather than concerns. Things reportedly escalated when Vincent allegedly discovered that intellectual property connected to early development work had been reassigned. Nothing illegal on paper, sources say, but ethically murky. Deals were structured in ways that favored the family brand while minimizing his stake. And once lawyers entered the picture, the atmosphere turned ice cold. Communication stopped being about resolution and started being about positioning. At the same time, viewers were watching Tamar unravel emotionally on screen. Explosive arguments. Emotional breakdowns. Public clashes that felt raw and chaotic. But people close to Vincent say those moments weren't random. They claim stress was building behind the scenes as financial and personal pressures collided. And instead of addressing the root, producers leaned into the spectacle. Pain became content. Conflict became currency. One insider claims Vincent begged for a pause. Not from filming, but from warfare. He allegedly wanted mediation, not escalation. But by then, alliances had already formed. Family loyalty outweighed marital partnership. And Vincent, once the protector, found himself isolated. According to someone who witnessed it, he realized he was fighting an entire system, not just one relationship. Then the public narrative hardened. Blogs ran with stories of mismanagement, of reckless spending, of Vincent being the reason things fell apart. And according to those close to him, that hurt more than the money. Because once a reputation sticks, correcting it feels impossible. He watched strangers dissect his life without knowing the contracts, the risks, the sacrifices he made before the cameras ever rolled. The darkest part, insiders say, was the silence from people he once trusted. No public defense. No clarification. No acknowledgement of his role. He wasn't asking for praise, just accuracy. But accuracy doesn't trend as well as drama. And in an ecosystem built on headlines, nuance doesn't survive. As the marriage officially ended, Vincent's life reportedly shrank. Opportunities dried up. Calls stopped coming. Former partners hesitated, worried about association. Meanwhile, the Braxton machine kept moving. New seasons. New deals. New platforms. And with each success, Vincent allegedly felt more erased. Friends say he started documenting everything. Not to release immediately, but to preserve truth. Messages. Emails. Timelines. Receipts that told a very different story than the one circulating online. He didn't want revenge, they claim. He wanted a record. Something solid in a world where perception shifts daily. And now, years later, that record is starting to matter. Because retrospectives are being written. Legacies are being cemented. And Vincent reportedly refuses to be remembered as the man who failed, when he believes he was the one who built the foundation. What's fueling this resurgence isn't bitterness, insiders insist, it's timing. With old episodes resurfacing and interviews reframing history, Vincent allegedly feels the window to speak is closing. And once a narrative becomes permanent, correcting it becomes impossible. The internet is already reacting. Fans are revisiting early seasons with fresh eyes. Pausing scenes. Catching moments that once seemed insignificant, but now feel loaded. The way conversations shifted when Vincent entered a room. The way decisions were announced, not discussed. The way his presence slowly faded until he was gone entirely. And the most unsettling part. According to someone close to the situation, Vincent hasn't even touched the most sensitive subject yet. Because money, reputation, and betrayal are one thing. But what he's preparing to talk about next involves private agreements, emotional leverage, and a moment behind closed doors that, according to him, changed the course of everything. And once that comes out, people may start asking a very uncomfortable question. What if the story we've been told for years was only the version that benefited the loudest voices? By the time Vincent's name started trending again, it wasn't because he'd done an interview or dropped a tell-all. It was because people started connecting dots that had been hiding in plain sight for years. Old clips resurfaced. Early episodes replayed differently. Fans noticed how often Vincent was credited quietly, then slowly faded out of the frame. And according to insiders, that erasure wasn't accidental, it was strategic. Sources close to the situation claim the final breaking point wasn't money alone. It was power. Vincent allegedly realized that the story of the Braxtons had grown bigger than any one person, and whoever controlled the narrative controlled the legacy. And once he was no longer useful to that narrative, he became disposable. Friends say that realization hit him hard, because he believed family loyalty would outweigh business ambition. It didn't. Behind closed doors, Vincent reportedly tried one last time to settle things privately. He allegedly proposed a clean accounting, shared credit acknowledgement, and a mutual agreement to stop the public blame game. According to someone who claims to have seen the messages, the response was cold. No compromise. No apology. Just silence. And that silence, insiders say, was louder than any argument. That's when Vincent began preparing for a different outcome. Not revenge, preservation. People close to him say he started organizing years of documents, emails, production drafts, and early development materials. Not to leak immediately, but to protect himself in case the narrative turned fully hostile. He believed history was being rewritten in real time, and he didn't want to be remembered as a footnote in a story he helped create. What fans don't often talk about is how emotionally isolating that process can be. According to those around him, Vincent felt like he was grieving something that was still alive. The show continued. The brand expanded. The family moved forward. But his contribution became invisible. And invisibility, they say, is a quiet kind of violence. Meanwhile, Tamar's public struggles intensified. Emotional moments became viral clips. Conflicts became memes. And the more chaotic things looked on screen, the easier it was for the audience to believe there had to be someone pulling strings behind the scenes. Vincent's name kept coming up, not because of evidence, but because of convenience. He became the explanation people reached for when things didn't make sense. Insiders claim that was the most painful part. Watching complex family trauma get reduced to a single villain narrative. Watching his silence get interpreted as guilt instead of restraint. He reportedly chose not to clap back, because he still cared about Tamar, about the family, about the image they had built together. But restraint has a shelf life. And once public perception hardens, silence stops being noble and starts looking complicit. Then came the whispers about finances. Allegations that Tamar looted accounts, drained resources, and left Vincent with nothing. Sources stress that Vincent himself has never used language that extreme publicly. What he has allegedly said, privately, is more nuanced. That money moved in ways he didn't authorize, that joint funds were reallocated without transparency, and that he was left financially exposed while others remained protected. Not a robbery, but a slow bleed. The internet, of course, took those whispers and turned them into headlines. Fans split into camps. Some defended Tamar fiercely, citing her emotional toll and mental health struggles. Others questioned why Vincent's role had been minimized for so long. Comment sections became battlegrounds. Old loyalties were re-examined. And for the first time in years, Vincent's voice was being requested instead of dismissed. According to one insider, that's when Vincent finally decided he would speak, not all at once, and not recklessly. Carefully. On record. With context. He reportedly wants the story told in sequence, not sound bites. He wants credit acknowledged, mistakes owned on all sides, and the truth separated from entertainment. What makes this moment different, sources say, is that the audience is ready. Reality TV fans have matured. They understand editing. They understand manipulation. They understand that family dynamics don't fit neatly into heroes and villains. And they are starting to ask harder questions, not just about the Braxtons, but about the cost of turning private pain into public profit. There's also a deeper layer that hasn't fully surfaced yet. Insiders hint at emotional leverage used during vulnerable moments. Ultimatums disguised as concern. Support offered conditionally. Moments where personal trauma and business decisions collided in ways that left permanent scars. Vincent has allegedly kept those details private out of respect, but respect erodes when silence becomes misrepresentation. As this chapter unfolds, one thing is becoming clear. This isn't just about Tamar. It isn't just about Vincent. It's about how stories get told, who gets believed, and who gets erased when success demands a clean narrative. It's about how women, men, spouses, and families are framed when reality TV turns life into product. And the most unsettling question of all is this: how many other people have been written out of stories we think we know? Because if Vincent's account is even partially accurate, then the legacy of the Braxtons isn't just built on talent and resilience. It's built on sacrifices that were never acknowledged. And once those sacrifices are named, the shine doesn't disappear, but it does change. According to those close to him, Vincent isn't looking for sympathy. He's looking for truth. And truth has a way of resurfacing, no matter how long it's buried. The only question now is how much of it the public is ready to hear, and how many people will have to confront the uncomfortable realization that the story they loved was never the full story at all. If you've made it this far, understand this: you're not just watching gossip unfold, you're witnessing the slow unraveling of a story that was never meant to be questioned. This is one of those moments where staying silent means letting someone else decide the truth for you. And trust me, the narrative is still being shaped in real time. Right now, conversations are happening behind closed doors. More receipts are being lined up. More voices are preparing to speak. And when they do, the version of events you think you know could shift overnight. This is the kind of story where missing one update means missing the entire context. Where a single leaked message or unexpected confession can flip public opinion in seconds. So if you're even slightly invested, if you've ever watched the show, defended a side, or questioned what really went down, this is your moment to engage. Hit that like button not just to support the channel, but to signal that these stories deserve to be told fully, not selectively. Drop a comment with your honest take, because the comments are where the real conversations are happening, and trust me, insiders are watching. And most importantly, subscribe. Because this isn't over. Not even close. More details are coming, and when they do, they won't be filtered, softened, or rushed past. You don't want to be the one catching up after the truth has already detonated. Stay locked in. Stay curious. Because once the full story comes out, there will be no UN hearing it, and no pretending you didn't see it coming.